Sleeping bag weekends are when high school students come to this university to see what it's like for a couple days, and they get hosts who are students here who live in the dorms who put the high school students up for a couple days. We decided many years ago, even before I was a freshman, that means 1990 or earlier.
About 87 or 88.
Thank you, Tom. To confuse sleeping baggers, to make them feel more welcome, to make them feel more a part of campus life. So, when I was a freshman, we organized a sleeping bag confusing. There was a gal in KGB named Becca. She was our recording secretary. She was Becca the Recca-Secca. She lived on the 5th floor of Morwood E Tower. Yes, I think you've seen her before. I lived on the 6th floor of Morwood E Tower, which at the time was still a guy's floor. We decided to set up shop in my room because Becca had baggers. We planned this carefully with Becca. Here's what happened. Her baggers arrived in her room. They exchanged pleasantries with Becca. You know, hi, I'm Amy, hi, I'm Jennifer, whatever, I don't remember their names. Two of them. And Becca's like, hi, I'm Becca, I'm your host. Welcome to CMU. After they'd been there a few minutes, Becca's closet door opened, and I got out.
The obvious joke.
I didn't even come out of the closet, I'm straight, but. Kill it! Thank you. So I got out of the closet and walked out of the room without saying a word. From up the hall, I could hear what happened next. Who was that? Oh, that's Sean.
Why did he have pants?
Sean lives in your closet? No. Sean studies in my closet. His roommate has a girlfriend, and the two of them are very, very loud and obnoxious. So Sean comes to my closet to study. And Becca opened the closet, and inside was a cushion for me to lean against in the wall, and a little desk lamp with batteries, and my physics text, and my scientific calculator, and so forth. And they went, huh. This is a good time to point out, there's a lot of rooftops around here, and there's certainly nobody ever on them.
Especially with cameras.
Especially with light sources. That's ain't done.
You can get kicked out of school for that.
So,
don't do it.
Anyhow, so the baggers are getting familiar with Becca and familiar with, you know, she tells them like where the restroom is, where the vending machines are for snacks and drinks, and, you know, starts talking about what the plans are for the evening, when they go to dinner, and so forth. Anyhow, she tells them what's going on, and everybody is excited. I come back in the room and begin studying again. I wave. Oh, you must be the baggers. And I sit down. A few minutes later, in comes Jody. Jody is a friend of ours, and she says, hey Becca, I need to make a grocery run, but can I borrow some yogurt for now, because I'm kind of hungry. And Becca gestures at her refrigerator. She opens it, it's a wall of yogurt. Jody takes one and leaves. I might mention Jody is wearing very pretty lightning bolt-shaped earrings that she made herself. A few minutes later, in comes Kevin. Kevin's a strapping young lad. He puts his bag down on the other bed, not Becca's bed, and starts to sit down at the other desk. And one of the girls goes, are you Becca's boyfriend? And the two of them chuckle, and he goes, no. He goes, oh, Becca's roommate's boyfriend. No, I'm Becca's roommate. The girls get a little bit confused. At this point, I decide to leave so I don't laugh. I go back to my room and tell people what's going on. Jody comes back in and says she's still kind of hungry. Becca's like, sure. She takes another yogurt, taking a moment to flash her beautiful circle-shaped earrings. At this point, in comes Anne. Anne walks up to Kevin and gives him a hug and a kiss on the cheek and says, hi Kevin, hi Becca, hi gals. Kevin, are we still on for tomorrow night? And Kevin goes, yeah, I'll meet you at 7. And she goes, okay, kisses him on the cheek and leaves. In comes Jody. She doesn't even ask, she just runs to the fridge and starts tearing yogurt out of it. In comes Heather. Heather is Jody's roommate, for real. She starts tearfully pleading with Jody, you've got a problem, you need help. Jody starts taking defense, I can quit anytime I want. She drags Jody out. Jody was wearing square-shaped earrings. In comes Lynn. She walks up to Kevin, gives him a hug, and kisses him on the lips. Kevin, are we on for tomorrow night? And he goes, yeah, see you at 7:30? She goes, okay, sweetie, and she leaves. I come back in to continue studying, because this is a healthy environment for physics. A lot of rigid bodies moving around. Frictionless, so. Okay, I got it out of my system.
That's what she said. He's not my roommate.
Now at this point, in comes Mary. She tackles Kevin and throws him to the bed. She kisses him fiercely and says, Kevin, am I meeting you at 8 tomorrow night? And he's like, yes. And she's like, awesome, and leaves. At this point, the fire alarm went off. It was real. Well, that is to say, it wasn't our fault. It wasn't a real fire, but it wasn't our fault. It was a real fire drill. So we all left the building. I was with Lynn and Ann, who had been with me up in my room where we were all gathering to plot the insanity. So when I saw Becca and her baggers shortly ahead of us, I put my arms around Lynn and Ann so they would see how amazingly loose people at CMU are, and we all walked out. So, fire alarm's over, everybody piles back into the building. At this point, Arch, who is Becca's boyfriend, shows up. I yell a lot.
Remember what I told you?
Arch, who is Becca's boyfriend, shows up and says, hey, I'd like to get involved in this. And then so do Drew and Chris. The problem is Becca doesn't know Drew and Chris, which makes it even better. At this point, we made the fateful, and immortal decision to change this from Confuse-A-Bagger to Confuse-A-Becca. Because we are KGB, we eat our own young. So, Becca and the baggers are regrouping after the fire thing, when all of a sudden in runs Drew, whom Becca does not know. His pants are undone and starting to fall around his ankles. Drew's about this big. He's screaming things like, holy shit, they found me, you've gotta hide me, you've gotta hide me. Now, certain KGB members happen to own certain objects. And they happened to loan other KGB members certain of these objects because it makes a good effect. Chris, who is about this big, comes running into Becca's room. She doesn't know him either. Where the fuck is he? Sees Drew starting to scrabble under a bed, reaches down, grabs Drew, pulls him out, and as he does, out of Chris's leather jacket falls the Beretta pistol.
92R and 93F.
Stage prop, but Becca didn't know. Chris manages not to laugh, picks up the Beretta, picks up Drew, one hand each, and storms out of the room as Drew is like, oh God, help me, call the police. Drew and Chris get to my room with shit-eating grins. They're like, yes, there is terror in there. Now, at this point, Tom decides to pick up my phone and says, what's Becca's number? I tell him he calls Becca's room. Becca knows Tom to see him, but not his voice yet on the phone. And this is the phone conversation. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Hi, this is Carnegie Mellon Campus Security. We've just received word that someone was seen in the vicinity of your room with a deadly weapon. Do not leave your room, we will be questioning you. Hangs up and says, she's sounded pretty scared. So at this point, I, as the person who was hosting this awful event, Tom as campus security, and Arch as the boyfriend who has to pick up the pieces, go running downstairs. We get to Becca's door, we knock on the door, Becca is practically already in tears. She opens the door, sees the three of us, looks at us, and Tom goes, campus security.